The year is 2077, and Captain Archie Atlas is about to boldly go where no man has ever been before. His grandkids are at home watching the event via their Neuralink device, wondering what the hell's going to happen to their beloved spaceman as he approaches a black hole. Thing is, nobody knows what will happen, but we do have an idea of what could happen. The gravity from the black hole will be so strong that Atlas's feet are pulled away, elongating his body so much that he looks like a single piece of spaghetti. There's even a term for that, spaghettification. Atlas might also just be torn apart or even evaporate. Either way, he'll sure justify earning that super massive wage NASA pays him every month. But that's not what happens. Not completely anyway. Only one part of Atlas gets the spaghetti treatment, but he actually splits into two realities. One of them enters the hole and the other stays outside of it. The crew on Atlas's spaceship, which is a safe distance from the black hole, hear his last words, but they're slow and broken. They hear their captain say, "My God, it's full of..." What they can see is his spaghetti half, seemingly stuck in the same place at the mouth of the hole, albeit he looks like he's been stretched across the surface. But the other him is in free fall, having passed the event horizon. He's just fine, having the happiest thoughts as he heads toward the singularity. He's not sure what's there, maybe oblivion, maybe someone's bookcase on Earth. It's highly likely he's never getting out. He's past the point of no return. Inside the spacecraft, aptly named Hades 6, the crew are all in tears, seeing the other Atlas looking like a human noodle. Down on Earth, a tsunami of RIPs are being sent down the Neuralinks. So, what happens now to Captain Atlas? The obvious answer is he suddenly finds himself on Earth at the dawn of intelligent life in monkey form, throwing bones at the monolith in the desert. Something happens, and then he's inside the body of a character on the TV show Friends. In fact, he's going to experience all reality on Earth since time began. Maybe you think that sounds like a load of baloney. Or maybe you think during lockdown, infographics writers have been hitting the glue. But the truth is, no one knows what would happen. Scientists have lots of theories, perhaps a little bit different to our scenario, but not all that different. One of the greatest mysteries of the universe is what is down a black hole. And that's the thing about the universe. It's complicated. So that's one thing we don't know about the universe, the conundrum of what would happen if someone tried to go into a black hole. But if you think that's a bit of a mind bender, we have a lot more information to mess with your head. Okay, so we used the word infinite a couple times already. The question is, do we know for sure the universe is infinite? If it is, does that mean there are infinite copies of you doing exactly what you're doing now? Or maybe copies of you doing something a little bit different than you're doing now? Does it mean somewhere there's a bunch of monkeys randomly hitting keys on a typewriter and at some point one perfectly writes the complete works of Shakespeare? The answer is, it's possible. There's the theory that around 13.8 billion years ago there was a Big Bang and the universe started expanding, something called cosmological inflation. Eventually, with a bit of hard work and patience, galaxies formed, and at some point so did the one that our dear Earth sits in. About 3.7 billion years ago, microscopic life forms graced the Earth. And fast forward a little bit, and here we are talking to you. If everything started with a Big Bang, what came before the bang? What exactly is nothing? Because surely there always has to be something. Scientists aren't exactly sure. British physicist Stephen Hawking said there was nothing before the Big Bang, but it was a weird kind of nothing. He's dead now, so maybe he's walking around in heaven kicking himself for all that false information he provided us during his time on terra firma. Don't laugh, a good portion of the world thinks God created everything, and we guess they think before God got to work on the universe there was just him, bored and lonely with a lot of time on his hands. Anyway, according to Hawking, the universe doesn't have a boundary. He said it was once a subatomic ball called the singularity. In that tiniest of particles, the laws of physics didn't exist. It was always reaching closer to nothing but didn't become, Hawking said about that ball. He gave an example, saying there's nothing more south than the South Pole. He said there was never a Big Bang that produced something from nothing. It just seems that way from mankind's perspective. We told you this show would be a mindbender. What he means is humans are unable to understand anything outside of space and time. What we call nothing before the Big Bang was actually something, but something we can't comprehend. Not all scientists agree with Hawking's theory of cosmological origin, and that's because no one has incontrovertible truth as to its origin, except maybe the evangelist Billy Graham, who died just a few weeks after Hawking. He once said, "God had no beginning, he always existed, and he always will. God is greater than the universe." Even if you do think God did indeed create the universe, no Christian scholar has ever been able to explain what came before God, just as no scientist can tell you exactly what nothing is. It's like this. To some scientists at least, we can't perceive anything outside of our own laws of physics, so we just can't explain what nothing is. Nonetheless, physicists eternally disagree about nothing. A few years ago, a bunch of them got together at the American Museum of Natural History to talk about the existence of nothing, and not surprisingly, everyone had a different theory. Moderator Neil deGrasse Tyson summed the showdown up with the words, "Maybe nothing will never be resolved." Here at the Infographics Show, we like what the perpetually happy British physicist Brian Cox said after being asked what came before the Big Bang. His answer was, "We don't know." Embracing academic humility, he said that the universe might well be eternal. Maybe things just exist, he said, but he can't be sure. No one can be sure. Maybe the answer lies inside a black hole. There are some scientists that talk about a mirror universe, which is a theory along the lines that there's a parallel universe next to the one we live in, but in that universe time runs backwards. Instead of particles, it has antiparticles. One scientist explained it like this. Imagine an egg yolk, then imagine the process of turning it back into an uncracked egg, and subsequently the egg being inside the chicken. Then imagine the process over again going forward. The universe could be the cycle continued. What passes away comes into being. Then there's the multiverse theory, in which every possible outcome can happen. One scientist penned the term eternal chaotic inflation, which sounds applicable to the bad news we heard in 2020. What that scientist was talking about are universes outside our universe constantly forming and growing. As for what's going on in those universes, well, we just don't know. Maybe right now in a galaxy far, far away, there are easily upset creatures, droids, and humans getting wasted in a cantina while listening to jazz music. Anything's possible in a multiverse except one thing. Han shot first, and Lucas can re-edit the original trilogy all he wants, but we know the truth! Which brings us to another matter. Something else science can't tell you about the universe. Is there life on other planets? It would seem egocentric for humans to say in this vast, maybe infinite universe there is no life, except here on our tiny blue planet. As for what that life would look like, well, how can we possibly imagine something that does not exist in our world? We might create aliens for fun in stories, but we do so based on what we know already. Another life form could be something we just can't imagine. Human knowledge is a toolkit and it only works in our world. It is probably useless elsewhere. Okay, so just how big is this universe of ours? You need to ask this when you're considering life on other planets. Depending on what source you're reading, the numbers change. They change for good reason, because a lot of guesswork is going on. But it's thought that just in our own galaxy, the Milky Way, there are 100 to 400 billion stars. That's a lot, and again, science can't be sure. We also don't know how many stars have planets, but most do, so we're talking about billions of planets too. We also believe that many of those planets could host life. We just can't get there yet and break some bread with the aliens. To further put things into perspective, listen to this. If you were traveling at the speed of light, you'd be doing a steady 670,616,629 miles per hour. That's a berserk speed, but let's pretend it's possible. Maybe now you're thinking, okay man, at that speed I could do a round the universe trip in no time at all. You'd be wrong, so don't put that on your bucket list yet. A study in 2018 said that traveling at the speed of light would take 200,000 years just to cross the Milky Way. That's hardly an adventure, it's only flying across your own hood. In Earth terms, it would be like popping out to buy some toilet paper. If you were traveling at 60 miles per hour, it would take you about 2 trillion years. The Milky Way, the thing that contains billions upon billions of stars and planets, is just one galaxy. How many galaxies are there? Science doesn't know, of course, so it has to guess. One estimate is 2 trillion galaxies. Add up those numbers and come back to us and say you don't believe in life outside of this cute little blue abode of ours. Now think about that bucket list of yours. 200,000 years to get out of town if you could travel at light speed, and you've got 2 trillion places to go. Well, maybe you've got forever to go, but we doubt there's a sign after the 2 trillionth galaxy that reads dead end. Planets outside our solar system are called exoplanets, and scientists believe that there are many planets with conditions similar to those on Earth. This could mean that right now, somewhere in the universe, things that look like dinosaurs are wandering around on a planet. It could mean somewhere in space there's a planet suffering from a global pandemic, or on another planet there are millions of narcissists obsessed with an app called TikTok. Different to TikTok only in name. There could be a place where someone like you is looking at his phone watching a show about things we don't know about the universe. Everything and anything is possible. We think. Okay, so there is this thing called matter. You are matter, your phone is matter, the air you breathe is matter, and even the thoughts in your head are matter. Cool, everything is matter. But is there non-matter? Well, there is a thing in the universe called dark matter, and it's not matter as we know it. There's a lot of it too, perhaps making up about 25% of the universe. The problem is, we think it's there, we just can't actually see it. It doesn't emit light and it doesn't emit energy, so we can't observe it. We just think it's there because of the way it interacts with other things in the universe. Scientists say that this stuff has a gravitational force that affects the matter we can see, such as other planets. But that's about it, we don't know what it is. It's like a cosmological ghost. Then you've got dark energy, which makes up about 60 to 70% of the universe. We don't know exactly what that is either. We think that dark matter pulls things toward it and dark energy pushes things away. Look at it this way, if the universe is expanding, then something is pushing against our space-time. If you've got normal matter, all the stuff you can see, which makes up about 5 to 10% of the universe, then you have these two mysterious matters that fill up the rest of the space. One is slowing down expansion and one is speeding it up, kind of a yin and yang relationship. A bit like everything in life, really. Everything has its opposite, but the pushing matter has more force than the pulling matter, which is a good analogy for human behavior. We need more push than pull, otherwise we wouldn't create anything. But we require resistance so we don't get out of hand. You know something else? We don't even know how we got here. Yeah, that's true. We have expressed all these grand ideas of a primordial soup that somehow created the chemicals that became the building blocks of life, but it's total guesswork as to how these things became beings that could type 120 words per minute on their smartphone. We don't really know how DNA formed. We are a mystery to ourselves. And let's not get started about consciousness. There's actually a theory that the universe has consciousness. It's called panpsychism, and it's quite popular with some far-out folks in the philosophy community and people that have smoked DMT. Is it true? Well, it could be. Do we even know how long we've got? Does Earth have a life expectancy? It's thought in millions of years from now, most of life on Earth could end due to some massive disaster such as an asteroid strike. There will be something left though, so we might need to be whacked by what's called a rogue planet to really see the end of life on Earth. It's a possibility. It's also possible that Earth itself could one day go rogue. It's all guesswork, of course. Maybe one day God will get bored of our habitual whining and kick us like a soccer ball into the next galaxy. After life has been destroyed, there will still be a floating rock in space that humans once called Earth. By the way, that word likely comes from the Old English word erothe, which means ground or soil. The Earth could be hit by a rogue planet, and if that doesn't finish the place off, the Sun will start expanding in about 1 billion years. In 5 billion years, that thing will turn into a red giant. Though modern theories actually believe Earth will be just pushed away from the Sun rather than swallowed up by it. Literally anything could happen, except, well, probably nothing. Now you need to watch this. Why would it suck to live through the end of the universe? Or have a look at this, 50 surprising facts about space you didn't know.